Absolutely. Shall I share my screen? All right, here we go.
Sure. Thanks everyone for joining us. This is the next iteration of the Meet Your Competition series. And we are very pleased to have David Durkee here from the MW-CCDC. We'll let him walk through his presentation and then we'll have some thought-provoking questions for him at the end. So please take it away, David.
All right, thank you very much. I'm a part of the Midwest CCDC consortium. The roots of the CCDC in the Midwest go from the CASIA group. Some people may be familiar with that. The Center for System Security and Information Assurance was started by Eric Spengler, John Sands. I'm from Lakeland Community College. Actually, I'm not from the Chicago area. A lot of people think that's how it's at Rain Valley. I work in Chicago. I'm actually in Northeast Ohio. It gets kind of a bad rap, but it's actually a pretty nice area of the country. I got, it's one of the largest arboretums down the road, and it's actually a pretty nice area. So the Midwest CCDC, the CCDC is the Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition. The roots of this, and I hope this is going to be okay. We just walk through it like this rather than display the whole screen here. If anybody can't see that, yeah, okay, everybody's saying it's fine. Lance Hoffman is a brilliant electrical engineer out of George Washington University, and he's the father of the cyber defense competition. He's also the initiator for the national, what has become the National Cyber League as well. And I guess he's pretty well known for starting a lot of these activities and different initiatives. He gets an idea and then he calls for a small group, and the small group gets together, and then that folds into the large group, and then the large group tries to document the idea and kind of spawn that through larger organizations. So in 2004, Lance Hoffman went with a small group of educators, one of which was Eric Spengler. And then he met with a large group. The large group was about 70 people, and they published a document which was basically how do you run a cyber defense competition. And I've been doing this now for about 15 years, and it's just uncanny. I mean, their original vision really does accurately depict how we run the cyber defense competitions. So we started in the Midwest in 2006 up through today. We started with just a regional, and now we've expanded into statewide qualification CCDCs. Just as an interlude, it was in 2011 that we had the small meeting for what became the National Cyber League. Yours truly was there for the NCL kickoff. So, all right, what is the CCDC? Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition. It's a national competition with 9 regions, of which I'm the director for one of those regions, the Midwest. Not to try and do one up with anybody, but we do have the largest region by number of teams, nearly 50 teams. I believe the active enrollment this year is 47. What kind of competition is it? It's acquire and defend, with a team of 8. A team of 8. They specify a roster of 12. So if you declare that at the beginning of the season, you can drop an ad. This is not supposed to be like a football team where, it's a passing situation or a Linux situation. So you pull out your window guy and put in a Linux guy. You do have to declare your team of 8 for the period of the competition. And you're required to maintain services. You're required to complete tasks that are issued by a team of judges, typically from industry, that adjudicate the entire event. Those tasks are usually called injects. It's just one of those things where it's the terminology we use, an inject. All the while they're defending against a professional team of pen testers or hackers called the Red Team. And again, that's all specified in the original document coming out of the 70s. In the Midwest, we have qualification CCDC that goes into the regional CCDC that goes into the national CCDC. And as you can imagine, each stage is kind of elevated in terms of its level of difficulty. The Midwest Cassia Group, as well as the consortium, has also serviced other regions, both to offer the platforms for the qualification CCDC and even for a couple of regionals. So just like a few weeks ago, we did the Rocky Mountain qualifier. So we had 11 teams there for that. This year, we started the season at February 4th. We had Minnesota and Indiana that qualified together. We have a state model. So you see all the states, and we have state directors that are assigned for each state generally. We don't have a lot of activity in Iowa, so I'm officially the state director for Iowa as well. But we do have 8 directors for the other 8 states. And we go by a state model. So when we get together with qualification CCDC, we don't take necessarily the top teams for the event. We take top teams by state. So first place teams at Minnesota and Indiana were Minneapolis College and Indiana Institute of Technology. It's really interesting just tracking this over the years. Minneapolis College now is a new winner, if you will, and it's just, you know, the correspondence and everything. You know, you get this from their coach and everything, how excited the team is, and you know, some questions about coming to the regional and so forth. So it's happy to work with them. Indiana Institute of Technology is one of the most successful teams in the Midwest. They really have got an excellent track record. At the regional, it's kind of a rivalry there between Indiana Tech and DePaul. Just this last weekend, we did Illinois, Missouri, Wisconsin, pretty heavy number of teams. It was a tough event. We did have a few issues that came in. I feel like I earned my salary here, dealing with a few of the issues that came up, but it did all work out pretty nicely. The winners were DePaul University. DePaul is the largest private university in the state of Illinois. They are definitely the most successful team in the Midwest in the overall history of the CCDC. So they have won the regional competition more than any other team. We have a new team that's come up from Missouri, Drury University. Yes, it's Drury from Missouri. And once again, you know, the team is just beaming. I mean, they're just so excited to have won. Traditionally in Missouri, it's been Southeast Missouri or SEMO, but Drury just has a hot team this year, and Drury took second place. It's a close runoff. Once again, I guess I should point out that you know, the state directors are to help run initiatives for cybersecurity in each of the various states. And it's interesting how each state has various initiatives for cybersecurity. You might be surprised. I mean, in Missouri, I mean, you don't necessarily think of Missouri as being a necessarily like a, you know, the center of the country for cybersecurity, but Missouri has a particularly good state initiative for cybersecurity. So they got some pretty good teams there. And then University of Wisconsin Stout was the winner from Wisconsin. This coming weekend, we have Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan, and Iowa that will compete. We'll have, I believe it's 14 teams, and they're practicing this week. So we have the system up and running. We've deployed credentials, team assignments to them, and they're now practicing. So we'll have them for Saturday. If you wanted like an idea, how long do they go? Well, again, it's the state directors help manage this, but it typically goes for 6, 7, 8 hours. Now on March 4th, we'll have a wild card CCDC. I didn't list the second and third place winners for these events, but for each state, the second and third place winners are eligible to go for the wild card CCDC. Iowa has one school that competes, and according to the rules, they don't go directly to the regional, they qualify for the wild card. So out of the 8 states that have competed, we'll have 2 teams each. I'm sure we can all do the math, plus Iowa. Plus there's an extra team that made an impassioned appeal that they could go to the wild card. So I thought their their case had some merit. So we plan to have 18 teams at the wild card. We have usually a couple of weeks then between that event and then on March 17th and 18th, we'll have the Eric J. Spengler Midwest Regional CCDC, which will be hosted at Moraine Valley in the south side of Chicago. All the other events, by and large, for the most part, are remote events. Illinois was hosted at Moraine Valley, and then it was kind of like a split hosted event. We had a couple of teams that gathered at the southern tip of Illinois at Southern Illinois University. So yeah, that's our schedule. And then for the 11th, that's when we did the qualifier for Rocky Mountain. So that's largely staffed with Midwest personnel. Chief judge from the Midwest did the judging for Rocky Mountain, and then we provided a platform for all that. So although they did use their own red team. Here's the breakdown by state of the number of teams that are active, still active, and either have participated or will participate in a qualification CCDC. That totals 47. There's a couple have dropped out. There's a total of 49 in the registration database. Out of the 49, there are 27 teams that have some form of CAE designation. There's an additional, 8 or 10 teams that are have an application in for CAE, including my own school, Lakeland Community College. We have applied for CAE 2Y. So yeah, Minnesota's doing a yeoman's job there for getting a large number of teams. Illinois has typically fielded about that many. We've noticed, we noticed a little bit of dip in registration. Was down closer to 40, during the COVID days. And so we've kind of recovered by and large. These are numbers. A little bit of history on this coming into, again, kind of going into the days when the CCDC was being planned. Workforce studies going back in that time frame revealed some problems with industry. Industry, by and large, did not feel that graduates from either 2 or 4-year colleges were really ready for entry in the field, especially with cybersecurity, and did not have enough cybersecurity skills, did not have enough practical skills. So over the years, there are a number of schools then that have changed their program to definitely focus in on a lot of very practical skills, and all of the teams that apply for the CCDC fall under that category. Some of your better teams have succession plans and computer or cybersecurity clubs. Baldwin Wallace in Ohio, for example, down the street, they have like an application and like a process of vetting team members. They have to apply for this and they have to get interviewed. Basically, it's like they're getting a job or something. So they're fortunate that they have a heavy number of large enough pool of students to choose from. Here's the qualification topology that they're using. It's completely virtual. Any of these, are just boxes. If they just click on that, it brings up a console. It looks just like you're there. You'll notice there are some older operating systems. It's not unusual out in business. I can testify that from my own experience. Going out into the field, there are a lot of older machines. Yeah, I would say the 2012 is probably right for an upgrade for next year. We do have a Palo Alto VM100 firewall. So Palo Alto is one of our sponsors nationally. And then the strategy of putting the Windows 10 box on the outside is so that teams have an opportunity whereby they can see their own services from an outside perspective, and thereby help to debug. Pretty common in a competition where a team will think their service is up, but its score is down. And so yeah, we can help teams with that. We can give them some information in terms of why we show that that's down. So yeah, there's a few puzzles that are put in here. Teams should not presume that these are configured properly. In fact, there's some things that are done poorly. The red team has planted some back doors, so there's malware on some of the VMs already. Even the Windows 10, look at that with new machines. They go to practice and they say, "Hey, I can't get out on the internet on Windows 10." Says, "Yeah, you got to fix that. That's part of the competition." So, I mean, it's an easy fix, but yeah, you'd be surprised. For a qualifier too, I might add that something like half of the teams, not meaning to denigrate the teams, but they're pretty much greenhorns. They do stuff like they don't change the password at the firewall and that kind of thing. So, but they're getting better, and they just have to learn. The Midwest regional topology, we stepped that up. Now for the wildcard, we use the virtual topology, but we have a different sequence of injects. So it is a more challenging event. We'll have a larger presence of red team. And then for the Midwest regional, what we do there is we endeavor to increase the number of targets. So for the virtual, we have maybe a dozen targets, something like that. For the regional, we have a bare metal ESXi server, and then the virtual network, the same virtual network that they use to qualify on, will be used once again in the regional. We might make some upgrades on that between this weekend and the regional. And then we have the so-called hardware network. So in the hardware network, we've got some real physical hardware here for infrastructure. So we have a real Cisco switch, whereas in the virtual environment, they don't have access to the underlying switching fabric, but on the hardware lab, they do. They can drill down to the switch. They got a real Cisco router, and they have a real firewall. Now this year, we're going to be using in the hardware area a Cisco firewall. So yeah, they'll have actually 3 different firewalls when you take a look at it, all told. So in the ESXi network, they'll actually have a build exercise in the first part of the regional. They'll have a set of requirements, and then they'll have to build their own ESXi server. And we might have a pre-build for them if they can't do that, so that we might install that by the next day. We'll see what happens. But yeah, there's a scenario that we have for that. There's a loaded set of ISOs on the hard drive, and then they have to use those to build their ESXi server. That will have a pfSense firewall. So if you take a look, this is a total of like 25 to 30 targets. If you go to the national, you'll get up to like 40 or more targets. We also have an IoT device. That's a Raspberry Pi. So that's a little bit under development now, but yeah, that'll be put in place too. So it's going to be a pretty wild event. Now, when we get to the sequence of injects for the regional, they go from, in the qualification CCDC, the series of injects are basically tailored towards pretty foundational security tasks that they should be doing anyway. Install syslog, install NTP, give me a security report, establish a security policy at your firewall, that sort of thing. With the regional, there's more of a focus on quality systems and business management practice. So that's all I have for the presentation portion. we have the system here that's based on NetLab. So you can see that we have all the teams fired up, and they're fired up for practice. Practice is going to go to this Friday at 7 p.m. where they all get torn down. And it's the exact same system as what they'll be using this Saturday. So, we can go in and see if there's anybody practicing. I was looking earlier. I didn't see anybody. Both teams 1 and 2 are some pretty good teams there. So they'll probably be practicing at night. I don't see anybody practicing during the day, but if we do have, if we probe around, we could probably see some evidence that they have been practicing. The red team pods are not up and running now, but we have a multiplicity of red team pods that also have a VPN connection so that the red team can go in from remote locations. Here's what the core network looks like. As you can see, we've got all the team networks that are coming into the core. We have dual 3550 Cisco routers, gigabit ports. Yeah, I know the 3750 is end of life, but there's still pretty nice switches. And then I think it's a 2900 Cisco router that goes out to the core. Inbound connections are to a team console or a team portal, which is also used by the judges to manage communications and release injects to the teams. And then we have the scoring engine. So I believe it's still up from this last weekend. Yeah, it's up from the last weekend. So here's how the services looked at the end of the competition. Yeah, teams 1 and 2 were bricked, as were team 6. Team 3 was the winner. So, and teams get this this display as well. Yeah, team 14 was Drury. So yeah, we have that. And then, if we have a means to solicit scoring, a scoring inquiry, why is it down? Yeah, I remember one from the last weekend. Hey, I understand why, like our web service, I can't remember if it's ecom. There's more than one web, but it might have been ecom. They say, they show you the screenshot. Well, here's my website. Well, it couldn't have been this one. I think if you take a look, you can take a look at the log on here, and it says no route to host. So yeah, well, if there's no route to host, there's no way that website is up. So I usually take a look at a few of these and then come back and just tell them there's no route to host. More common, especially in the situation where they're posting and saying that they think their website is up. There's usually something that comes up in the log like key phrase not found, something like that. And what the red team does is they'll deface the website. They'll put in like unprintable characters and that sort of thing that will make the MD5 fail, or that the key phrase then won't be found. So that's a common situation. Another situation that occurs that's a little tricky. I don't know if I want to get into too much technical detail here, but on the CentOS ecom, that's probably the most difficult service to keep up. That's cross-linked with another database. So there's a SQL database on the Ubuntu. And so typically what happens is that students will break that relationship and then the service goes down.
Well, thank you very much, David. That was incredibly informative. I would encourage everyone that has any questions to please type them into the chat, and I'll moderate and feed David some questions as we go along.
Yeah, please, any kind of question. We're an open book here.
Well, great. I'll get started, David. At one of the, as you may know, I am part of the NCAE Cyber Games team. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions that we get and that a lot of faculty have is, how do you know that the MW-CCDC is for your students? At what level should students be in order to engage and get the most out of it? And right. What skills do they need in order to have a good day and feel like they got a lot out of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, we do feedback scans at the end, and frankly, we ask them, what's your thought on this? Was this valuable? How well was it managed? That sort of thing. we get feedback from the coaches and so forth. I mean, we consistently get feedback on how helpful this is for students. I would say the most common point of feedback that we get from new players and new teams is just like a complete shell shock. You know, in hosted games, you know, and talking to students, they're just like shaking their head, kind of like, I had no idea. I had no idea what a person in this career was supposed to do. So it's an integrative type of event. If you take a look at the CCDC website for the Midwest, we actually post like a guidelines document here about the Midwest and so forth, registration, view the team preparation document. And, you know, if you take a look at this, this actually gives you, you know, so, you know, a set of skills and so forth that we feel that, you know, people should have in order to come in. Notice the framework skill. Now these frameworks definitely come in more on the regional, but yeah, they'll get tested on their knowledge of that, and they'll have to write some reports on that. So concepts and, you know, different points of knowledge, Linux and Windows system, they should know how to do these different things. So yeah, that's published. As soon as they register, I go out and then I point to this document and, you know, point that to them. The success of the teams and the feedback that we get from our surveys confirms the veracity of results that we have.
Well, what a great resource. Thanks for bringing that to everyone's attention.
Yep, that's publicly available. So let's go ahead and snag that.
Yeah, and so if a team or a faculty member were to say, how do I practice? How do I get ready? They have that guidance document. Do you have an environment in which they practice, or do you refer them to other entities?
Well, yes and no. I mean, you know, as I said, at the week before, all these, you know, the actual environment for the team is available. So yes, in that sense they do. But, you know, going back to, you know, like last fall or anything earlier than this, no, they don't have this. Although what you'll find is your best teams will build this topology. If it's not this precise topology that's based on published topology from this year, then they'll build last year's. And then once they get this year's, then they'll make a modification and upgrade that. Now, obviously, they can't build the precise topology and the precise VM with all the, you know, the malware and misconfiguration and everything, but they will do this and they will meet as a team. And your best teams will have a scheduled plan of attack, and they'll have a set of tasks that they've worked out. And especially for the first hour, what are the things that they got to do? And it's a checklist of what they do and how the teams are going to be organized. And a lot of this has to do with what they're going to do with the firewall early on.
Okay. Absent other questions, I get to keep asking. So another question, just kind of, if you could share with the people on this call, maybe a peek underneath the hood of what might be next. You know, you were always running the competition in today, but do you have any conceptually and kind of what you offer the students? Are there are there a few things on the drawing board for next year and the years after that you'd like
Absolutely.
to?
Yeah, absolutely. For one thing, if you take a look at, again, the history on this, you know, we went back to brick and mortar. You know, they had, you know, hard metal boxes here and everything. This is a lot easier to manage, being a virtualized system. However, there's one major area of wireless that we'd like to reintroduce, especially into the regional. So there's been some talk about going back to a brick and mortar component for this. Don't lose sight of the fact that basically the national CCDC is mostly a brick and mortar type of competition. And so again, the idea would be that that kind of component would be a better preparation for teams. And then the other thing is definitely a component for cloud-based services. That's coming. There are already some regions that are availing themselves of cloud-based services. We've dabbled in that. We've got some test beds that are going. Missouri is kind of leading the team there, where they've got a test network that's running on AWS. So I would look for probably a hybrid system in the next couple of years, where we have components that are both on NetLab and AWS. Let's see, something else for the regional. We're looking at providing a platform for Security Onion version 2, and it'd be a separate system. And whereas you wouldn't be able to run inline traffic with it, you could take, say, packet captures, log files, something like that, and then on this separate system, use that resource to facilitate reporting and post analysis. One of the problems of Security Onion 2 is it's pretty resource intensive, trying to put that in. You'll notice here on the hardware, we've got Security Onion 1 there. If we offer Security Onion 2, we'll probably replace that for this year's hardware. So there's a few ideas that are on the table.
Sounds great. I'll absent any other questions from the crowd. This will be my last question, and then we'll let you go. A lot of the reason that I know that you're a part of this and why our team really enjoys offering these competitions are those really good feel-good moments when the students make a breakthrough and the students try and put many hours into something, and then they win. They get some big accomplishment. Just so everyone on the calls can kind of get a little feel for that, do you mind sharing a couple of the best feel-good moments from this year or years past where the students really got it?
Oh gosh, yeah, we've kind of hit on this years ago, where you work with the judging teams, and the idea was, look, let's not have this as just a hodgepodge of activities here, come up with a policy or something, but let's see if we can really come up with a series of tasks here that will help teams promote good security practice. And I remember one year at the regional, by the end of the regional, the red team was basically twiddling their thumbs. We had basically defeated the red team. Now, since then, the red team has kind of upped their game. So, it's kind of a lock and key, but, that was certainly one moment and one year. And so to any extent that we can defeat the red team and help teams to defeat the red team, we feel that that's a success. We get a number of teams that, boy, they're just, really scary good. And I kind of feel that each year at the regional, that halfway mark I mentioned for the qualifier, that halfway mark for the regional kind of holds true too. These are all vetted teams now. They're all really good performing teams, but the top half at the regional, man, these are just scary good kids. It's just wonderful to see how they're able to work as a team, mature together, and they're just awesome. The top teams in the Midwest, I think they stand up pretty well at the national. Year before last, I think it was DePaul was second in the nation, and then I think it was last year or the year before, Indiana Tech. I think they took second place in the national wild card. So we've got some pretty good performing teams here, and it's somewhat anecdotal, but the communications that I get, I get so many people that thank me for putting this off, and the work that we do with the Midwest Consortium. So it's it's just testimonies we get from teams and students. There's so much appreciation for this. Everybody knows that teaches in IT that the basic program just isn't enough. We see it everywhere. And even like I teach in Cisco Academy, for example, I'm teaching a section of network security. Even there, I call it the ruts of the assigned lab. I mean, especially like in CCNA or an early part of the program, like Security Plus or something like that, you get these canned labs and, students, they say, well, do this and do that, do this and do that, and now ping or, do some other kind of test and yeah, it works. And then, okay, now you ask the student, well, what'd you just do? Don't have a clue. They cannot, you know, verbalize what they did because they just don't have that level of understanding. So you have to give them custom labs, and you have to get them some kind of integrative kind of experience like this where they have to come off and they have to really use their skills. One of my eye openers was the very first competition that I did that was brick and mortar, and on that one it wasn't acquire and defend, it was install and defend. So they had to, each team had to install their whole network. And we had 8 teams, and there was only one team that could do their NAT properly at the perimeter. And I remember going down and sitting down with each team. Hey, who's your Cisco guy? And I was like, well, I mean, I wasn't quite this tactless, but I mean, I asked each team, I mean, didn't you go over NAT in class? I mean, didn't you learn this skill? Oh yeah, we did the NAT lab, but they couldn't set it up. They could not bring their services out to the front door. So, I mean, they basically told me to, roll up my sleeves and show everybody how to do it. So, I mean, I just, look, this is how you do it. And they just need to learn that. And we do that for some lower performing teams. I mean, if they get bricked, we'll restart their system, or we'll go in and we'll try and see what we can do to bring their systems up. I mean, we don't want, if they're sitting there with all their services down, I mean, they're not learning much. They can't do their injects or anything like that. So, we'll bring their services back up. They're not in a position where they could possibly be placed. Then we tell the red team, hey, back off a little bit here. Let them do
Thank you. You kind of answered Yair's question about how do you support teams that struggle at first. The other question in the chat comes from Tom Neterost from University of Central Florida, kind of asking about DePaul's special sauce. And with 7 wins in the recent history, what is it about their approach that has allowed them to be so successful?
They're like a machine. I mean, they are just all over the CCDC. They're like that. There's some other teams in the Midwest that are like that. Indiana Tech is like that. Baldwin Wallace is like that. They have the CCDC that's embedded in their coursework. So CCDC preparation exercises are and that lab work that they do becomes part of their curriculum, and they get support from the administration. I mean, there's probably no school in the Midwest that supports the CCDC more than DePaul. You talk to their coach, and he said, look, they need anything, new lab facility, anything that a new piece of equipment, new piece of software, new lab, whatever it is, the school will provide that for them. So they got a tremendous support from their administration. They really have multiple coaches. I mean, every team has a declared coach, but there's sort of like I don't know if you want to call them like a junior coach or an assistant coach or something. And Ryan Haley is there as an assistant coach, and he's got some very deep CCDC experience. He was a part of the CCDC team going back to Moraine Valley when he was at Moraine Valley. Then he went to DePaul and was a member of their team as a student. He was a member of the DePaul team that was on the very first NCL championship team that I think they met in Florida, as I recall. And now he's all over it. He matures that and works with the students every year. They definitely work on succession. They have like a B team that they work with. So they have their top team, of course, that goes to the qualifier and so forth, but they're already working with the underclassmen to work on CCDC skills in anticipation of them becoming juniors and seniors and becoming a part of the the A team, if you will. So, yeah, I mean, it's all about the coach. The coach makes a huge difference. And
I can only agree with that, and I'll note that Tom has been a frequent visitor to this event. We really appreciate his attendance. I just did a quick scan of the Southeast CCDC website, and University of Central Florida also with 7 wins.
oh yeah,
2015. So
oh yeah, they're huge.
perhaps when we talk about the Southeast CCDC, Tom can share some of his special sauce with the rest of the group.
Sure.
But for today, I just wanted to say thank you very much, David. This was extremely informative, and not just for today's presentation, but for all of the time and effort that you've put in over the years to allow CCDC in the Midwest to be kind of the foundation and showcase for the talent that you have in that region.
Well, thank you. You know, I like working on the CCDC. It's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding, and you know, just get to do, you know, rub elbows with a lot of people. I just view this as yet one more opportunity to get in and showcase the CCDC. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time.
Thanks again.
Yep. All righty.
You as well. Take care.
Alrighty.
Stay safe.
All right.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.